Hello YouTube. In this video I'm going to be teaching you how to get big with a small frame. And in the description I'm going to make the introduction to that very topic because I already touched on the subject in the past, almost a year ago. But today I want to give you methods, and I'm going to speak directly from experience because I have a very small frame. And when I speak about frames, I'm mostly talking about the width of the shoulders, but you will see that the width of the hips and the waist also plays a role. So in my case, you might not believe me when I tell you that, but I have very narrow shoulders, and especially my clavicles are extremely short. And when your clavicles are short, by default, the bone of the shoulder is closer to your head, and you don't get that natural width that some people have. And yet, when I'm shirtless, I look pretty big, and I also have people telling me, hey, are you sure that you're narrow? Because you look pretty wide set to me. And that's an illusion. Because in reality, if I were to touch my frame, the actual structure, the bone, this is my clavicle, connects the shoulder here, and this right here is my rotator cuff. Past that point on the side, there's only muscle and flesh. The bone stops here. This is the utmost extremity of my bone structure. So look at the distance between the top of the clavicle and the bone. It's really short, and yet I managed to make it so that I look big. So how did I get that? Well, first off, I got big. There's no secret. If you want to actually put on size, you're going to have to be slowly bulking up to appear massive. But there are certain strategies that, as someone who has a small frame, as someone who's a framelet, you have to apply. And I'm going to share it with you because I managed to make myself appear larger with time. So first off, the biggest thing and the thing that I need you to do right now is pullovers. Pullovers have made the biggest difference in my physique. It's insane how well they work to develop the lats, to develop the long head of the tricep, but most importantly, to expand the rib cage. If you start as someone who's narrow, managing to actually stretch that rib cage is going to do wonders for you because it's going to make you appear wider here and on the chest area. You're going to look thicker. You're going to look like you're expanding on the side. And when you're posing, it's an invaluable asset. So start doing it now. If you want to know about the rep range, the sets, etc., check the video I made about how to develop a demon back like Yujiro Hanma. All of that is in the description. So that's the first thing. You want to find strategies to make yourself appear larger because by nature, you're not. And it's something you're going to have to deal with. You're never going to have that natural width. And in truth, that elusive V-taper that is seen as the peak of aesthetics is pretty much a lost dream. Doesn't mean that you can't look good, but you won't ever be able to replicate that aspect because it's a genetic gift, pretty much. You're going to have to deal with what you have. And what you have is narrow shoulders, which also means that by comparison, your waist, even if technically the measurement isn't big, is going to appear big. And then you have guys like me who not only have narrow shoulders, but also have a large waist. Because my waist measures at 36 inches. That's quite thick. And yet, it doesn't look terrible on me. And the reason why is I have developed my core. For people who have a narrow frame, there's no three-way around it. You have to develop your abs. You can't be lazy on the abs. I've seen some guys who have like that wide set of shoulders. Even if they have a flat stomach without definition, it's fine because the attention is not on the stomach. It's up there, it's on the shoulders. But for you, it's going to be there because it's the center of your physique. So you need to develop it. You need to do compound movements with a good bracing and you need to isolate the abs. Don't make the mistake of not doing that. Do isolation for the abs if you want to develop a nicely defined core. It's going to make all the difference. I guarantee you if you Photoshop my physique and you take off the abs, you just, you wash them off, I look terrible. Like I look like total, complete garbage. But the abs salvage it for me because the attention is not on how big the waist is, it's on the look of the waist. It's what is on the waist, which is the abdominals. So that's something you need to develop as well. Ribcage expansion, develop the core. That's going to do wonders. After that, a big thing, something that I also encourage people who are tall with a big frame to develop, to be honest, is the legs. But for you, it's going to be crucial because, as I said at the start of the video, illusion strategies are what is going to make it work for you as someone with a narrow frame. The bigger your legs are, the smaller the waist looks. And it's something that I can tell you for a fact because for me, when I'm posing with pants on, which is what I'm doing on this channel for the biggest part, my waist looks huge. When I take off the pants and I flex those legs, it looks smaller. Why? Because now there's something even bigger than the waist to look at, the legs. And since they're so close to the waist, the competition between the two makes it so that the eyes go to the legs because they're a muscle group. And it's the reason why I've been sort of hiding my physiques for so long, is because I want to shock you guys. I want to show you when I enter a competition, the difference it makes when I take off those trunks. What happens to the physique? It glorifies the physique, but it only works if you have big legs. If you take off those pants and you have tiny chicken legs, it does nothing. You need massive quads, massive hamstrings. So you have to develop them. I know that I've heard some people say that developing the legs might make the upper body look smaller. Issue is you already have a small upper body because you're narrow. That's not going to change. So I would say try to make it so that your attention is somewhere else when you flex. Because in reality, even if you have massive legs, if you have a nicely developed upper body, it's not going to take away from it that much because it's a further region. It's further away from the legs. So I encourage you to develop thick tree trunk legs if you can. And the illusion aspect goes even further than that with the legs, because with the entire physique, you're also going to find out that there are other portions that you can develop that directly impact the width. And that, of course, is going to be the outside of the delt, so the rear delt and the side delt, and the long head of the tricep. Because when you pose to the front, if you know how to press with your upper back, just by doing that, you're making those areas stand out and it makes you appear wider. So that's something to develop as well. You will not really get that cannonball effect that some of the guys with a wide set of shoulders get, but it's still an imperative. If you have tiny shoulders, it's going to make the narrow frame even worse. And as I told you before, all of that is muscle mass. You need that muscle mass. If you took that away from me, I would look terrible. But even further than that, when we're talking about expansion, what expands the most in your physique? I'm doing it right now. It's the arms. Okay, when you pose or when you're just walking around, these guys are moving around. And what do? They make you appear wider. And it's something that I found out when I'm trying to pose and I practice for the posing. I cannot pull off closed poses. Meaning that all of the pose that you see guys do where they transition with the arms like this or close to their trunk doesn't work with me. It makes me appear even narrower, because if I do this, you can really truly see how narrow my shoulders are. I don't want that. I want to keep them relaxed, pressed, and I want it open, because when I expand, I look wider. Issue is, same logic as with the legs, if you expand and what expands is two sticks, you're going to look like a seagull. It's not going to look appealing at all. So you need big arms. Everyone needs big arms, to be honest. Tall guys, because they need to fill it out. But for you, it's crucial. You are not born with a V taper. Your default state even is an X taper. You're a square. But the issue is that thinking you're going to be able to escape from that by keeping your legs small and just banking it all on your shoulders, you're trying to put all of your points in an area that you're the weakest at. It's not going to work. In my opinion, you have to embrace the X taper. You have to have massive limbs, because the massive limbs take away from the torso. They take the attention away from the torso. And that's what is going to be your saving grace, really. And that's also how you appear bigger in terms of muscular development. So that's my tips. That's what I would tell you to do. Develop those lats, develop the shoulders as well, develop the long head of the tricep, develop the legs and the arms. I'm pretty much telling you to get big overall, but there are certain ways to approach that as I described. And then to finish it up, I would talk about body fat. As strange as it sounds, having a higher body fat can be a good thing for someone with a narrow frame, because it's going to pack on mass. Issue is, if you don't do it properly and you go from bear mode to hippo mode, you're going to end up looking even worse. Because if someone who's tall gets some fat in their core area, in their waist, it's not too bad. They have that V taper, so it's sort of hiding that. But for you, it's going to look terrible. Every inch you get in your waist is going to look terrible. And that's something to avoid. So when you bulk, be slow with it. Don't do dirty bulks. You're going to end up just looking fat. That being said, I want to correct a misconception I hear a lot. For people who have a large waist or who don't want a large waist, I hear people say, oh, don't do squats or deadlifts and don't develop the obliques. It'll make you look worse. I cannot disagree more with that statement, because I found that developing my obliques has made my waist look much better. In reality, the waist, for the most part, or the big hips, it's a bone structure. You're not going to really put any thickness on it. And even if you did put thickness on it, it would only be when you turn to the side. to the front, the only thing that you will see really is definition and muscular development. Your obliques are not starting to massively poke out to the side. I have found that most guys who have a large waist, they've had that large waist when they started. And so when they work their obliques, the only thing it does is it's defining and making more rigid and solid looking that portion that they already had. I have never seen someone with like those weird love handles thing train and make it worse. I have never seen that. Maybe it applies to people who have a narrow waist and want to keep it that way. But if you're already born with a big waist, make it rock solid. It's not going to go away. Okay, it's your bone. You're not going to trim that. Make it look pristine. That's how you're going to make it look and appear better, and the illusion will work. Because the more you develop the body parts that I described, the more you gain size in the right area, the bigger you're going to get, the bigger you're going to look. And it's going to be an investment that you're going to be so happy you did, because you'll get to a point, just like me, where people won't even believe that you have a narrow frame because there's going to be so much muscle on it. So I'm going to leave you with that. Keep in mind that there is always hope, no matter your bone structure, no matter how you're born, how skinny, how fat, you can look big naturally. And I'm living proof of that, and you will be soon too. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.